I often get asked how I plan my journeys, my expeditions. Having hiked across Mongolia, Madagascar and the Yangtze, 3 big world first records, people are kind of like, how do you get the idea? What made you think of Mongolia, China, Madagascar? And so I want to break this video down by taking you from the very first seed where I came up with the idea to then the process in order to get the expedition, the green light to make it happen. So the first step I take is looking into the location. Where do I want to venture to? And what do I want to do in that country that I'm looking to pursue an adventure in? And with me, what I found is my trigger point is being unfamiliar with the country and with how extreme it is. I say extreme because I'd done a lot of cycles on my early travels, and I found that where I'm cycling, there's a road. If there's road, there's people. If there's people, there's food, there's water. There's that safety net, which is fine, but I wanted to push myself, you know, sort of hit the limits, see what I'm made of, see what I'm capable of achieving. And when I came up with the decision of tackling my first world first record, which was Mongolia, I was looking at what country I am very unfamiliar with, a country that features in people's minds but no one really goes to. And I was on the travel route as a Muay Thai fighter, scuba diving instructor for 2 years in Koh Tao. I had met travelers from all over the world. That was the main point of conversation, and they would share with me their travel plans, and not one of them said that they've been to Mongolia or plan on going to Mongolia. So in the hub of Southeast Asia, no one was going to Mongolia, and I got curious. Why aren't people going to this country? I started to do my research. I realized it's the 2nd or 3rd most sparsely populated country in the world. It's very extreme. It's home to the Gobi Desert, the Altai Mountains, the Mongolian steppe. You've got the eagle hunters in the west, the reindeer tribe up north, the camel herders down south. And potentially, if I was to do an adventure here, I would rely heavily on myself to survive it. I'd be effectively fully self-sufficient, and that excited me. So with the location, I want it to be unfamiliar, I want it to be extreme, and I wanted it to be walking whereby I would be relying solely on myself to survive. Step 2 of that, to make the process easier, would be to find those people who have done it before. Because if you can gain access to the people who've done it before, it's going to be a lot easier. You can ask them questions. Maybe they've got YouTube vlogs or sort of a travel blog where they kept an update of what they went through. Therefore making the planning process a lot more simple. However, with me, with Mongolia, 4 months into planning that journey, I realized that it was a world first, that someone had attempted 3 different occasions but failed on all 3 attempts. And so I was able to get sort of inside knowledge for the first half of the journey, but then after that the guy was evacuated, and so I would be left to my own devices, and I would have to figure out whether I can overcome that hurdle that he failed at 3 different times. So effectively it's the essence of finding someone who has done it before and gaining as much knowledge as you can. If they haven't done it before, it's doing your home research on discovering why someone hasn't done it, or figuring out if they have attempted and failed, where did they fail at. It's all about attention to detail and meticulous planning, seeing if you can overcome the hurdles that they couldn't overcome. And that's what I love about these expeditions that I do. It's not necessarily daredevilish or too risky. It's making sure a fully fledged plan is put in place that I can survive this journey. So this is your ground research, asking people for any help, people with inside tips and inside knowledge. Step 3 of that process would then be looking into the dangers, the challenges, obstacles and hurdles that you may face during that adventure. For me, taking it back to Mongolia, I reached out to that guy who had attempted to walk across Mongolia, and I asked him for a list of dangers, stuff that I need to be aware of that I might come up against. And he got back on email with this big intimidating list. It was watch out for the drunken nomadic drifters, the grey wolves, the stagnant water, the dry wells, the steep ravines, the snow blizzards, the sandstorms, and the list went on and on and on. And then I went to do more. I wanted to do more research, And then I found that I would then be facing a number of other challenges that he hadn't included. One of them would be the altitude. One of them would be the fact that I would be in minus 15 degrees Celsius. One of them would be the fact that 99% of all hauling journeys, man hauling meaning where you're pulling a trailer or a cart behind you, whether it be in the polar regions or in a desert, fail. So that would be my critical life-saving point, the thing that I was pulling behind me in order to make sure that I can survive all of these challenges that I'm coming up against. And then not only that, is with Mongolia, I'd be facing minus 15, but I'll also be facing 40 plus degrees Celsius. So I then figured out that I need to have enough clothes and equipment to last me through both hot and cold extreme temperatures. And so once you've figured out the different challenges that you may come across, the obstacles, you then need to work out whether you believe you have what it takes to overcome it, or whether you are prepared enough to be able to plow through it. The fourth step would be the route and the method that you're looking to travel that route. So with me, with Mongolia, it was a hike from west to east. Madagascar was a hike from south to north, summiting the 8 highest mountains via the interior of the island, sort of hacking through the jungle along the way. And then of course in China, it was following the course of the Yangtze River. So with these different expeditions, I looked into the route in terms of, one was desert, one was following the river, the other was jungle. So there was 3 different methods for this, but all were hiking. One was communities. People are a big safety line. Where there's people, there's food, there's water, and there's probably safety and protection from wildlife. This one was particularly big in the Gobi Desert. I needed to find out where the confirmed and unconfirmed water sources were, because I'd be hiking for 5 weeks across the Gobi Desert, solo, unsupported, pulling an 18 stone, 120 kilogram trailer behind. That on that trailer I would be carrying a big water container that I would fill up with water as and when I could, but many of the times I could go a week without coming across any fresh water. And so that was the biggest danger on that journey. I needed to get good access to maps, but also good access to local knowledge who could help me plan out where the water points are, and then I can therefore jot them on the map. Not only this, but terrain is a vital part as well. And throwing it back to the Yangtze River, there were many obstacles that were getting in the way of me starting out on this journey. One of the obstacles with the locals were warning me, saying you're starting too late into the season because it drops to minus 40 degrees Celsius. And right before then is hunting season for the bears, where the bears are coming off the mountain peaks, actively looking for food, for calories, right before they go into torpor, which is their version of hibernation. So that's not a good time to be trekking. Not only that, is the river cuts through V-shaped valleys. And so as I'm trying to navigate the river, there will be times that I'll have to head off the river and actually have to traverse the mountain ridge alongside, parallel with the Yangtze River, and then drop back down to the Yangtze River when it's safe to do so. And so you need to figure out what route you're going to be taking, if you're going to be walking, cycling, road tripping, and then you need to figure out the distance between communities, because this dictates how much food you'll need. For example, if you're walking, you're going to need to take a lot more food. Say if there's a good week and a half between 2 communities, you need to have that as an extreme zone whereby you have no access to any food whatsoever, and always take as much food as you can to make sure you can last the course. Step 5, this for me is one of the most exciting steps, because after doing all of my homework and ground research, it's then up to me to choose whether I want to keep going with this, whether I want to pursue it or not. And so if I'm excited by the above, I want to keep going. And when it comes to Mongolia, Madagascar and the Yangtze, I've always hit that step where I then realize that I can actually shift it from an idea to a plan. And this sort of gets me a little bit over enthusiastic, if anything, and I want to fucking run with it. Step 6, this is the most vital, this is the biggest, and probably the hurdle that 99% of people fail at, because you definitely need that stubbornness, that doggedness, and that determination to keep pushing on, regardless to the hundreds, if not thousands of rejections that you receive. Because this is when you try to tie in different teams and different people. You need government support of the country, you need logistics support from on ground, you need UK or wherever you're based to also be tying in and keep good communication and correspondence with the team of the country that you're traveling in. You might need certain licenses, you might need certain permits to gain access to national parks or sensitive areas. And from my own experience planning the Yangtze River, once I knew that the Yangtze was the one that I was able to achieve or able to pursue, and I really wanted it to happen, when I got onto step 6, it was 2 years in the making. Because of the sensitivities, because of the government, because of the different authorities that would probably try to get in the way and stop me. I was then having to find guides, I was then having to find film crew because we wanted to document and film this for National Geographic. And to bring all of this into place is an immense amount of work. Where to start? I would say just by reaching out to people who are more familiar with the country than you are. And that's what I did. So with Mongolia, I reached out to the Adventurists, I believe they're called, where they have the Mongol Derby horse race, which is the toughest horse race in the world, that have great logistical support and awesome knowledge of Mongolia. So I reached out to them. I was then introduced to a guy named Rob Mills, who then became my logistics manager because his inside knowledge of the country was immense. I could not have asked for a better logistics manager. And he helped with the mapping, he helped with the water points, he helped connect me to on-ground fixes and logistical help, whereby if I was in trouble, you know, they would be able to help arrange a remedy. Same with the Yangtze, it was via a production team in Beijing, and this production then outsourced different fixers, different guides that would join me in different areas. They would help with the permits, they would help with the licenses that I would need, they would help with getting access to satellite communications to be able to share the journey. This, I won't go into a massive amount of detail because it very much depends on where you're going. For example, my Madagascar trip was a lot easier to plan because it wasn't as sensitive. I had one logistics manager on the ground on the island of Madagascar, and he was connected to the tourism minister, the embassies, he was connected to fixers, guides, so it was just one phone call to him, and I had all of the fixers and on-ground knowledge at my fingertips. And so if you can keep pushing on until you've found that guy who can really help, because this is very much about teamwork at this point, then this is the hardest but the most exciting as well, because from here it's then on to sponsorship, and with sponsorship that's again a whole different ball game, and I will make a separate video about that. But if you've enjoyed this video, if you want to know a little bit more, if there's something that I haven't covered, because I'm sure there's lots, and something you want to know a little bit more about, drop them in the comments and I will get back. Again, I'm going to be creating as many videos as I can, sort of breaking it down, these expeditions from idea to making them happen, to sponsorship, to equipment and gear, to answering any questions you may have. So do subscribe, like this video, share it with people who may find it helpful. Maybe someone's planning an adventure, big or small, it doesn't matter. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.